Well, welcome to our second annual Women's History Month event. I thought I'd start by just sharing a little bit about Women's History Month. Women's History Month is a time to reflect on the courage of women in past generations and to celebrate how their efforts and bravery afforded women the opportunity and freedoms they have today. This recognition began in one town in 1978 when the Education Task Force of the Sonoma County Commission on the Status of Women celebrated Women's History Week in Santa Rosa, California. The week was chosen to include International Women's Day on March 8th. In 1980, Jimmy Carter proclaimed the week of March 8th, 1980, to be National Women's History Week, citing in his proclamation that the achievements, leadership, courage, strength, and love of women who built America was as vital as that of the men whose names we know so well. The recognition was renewed by later presidents until 1987, when Congress designated March as Women's History Month. This year's theme is Women Providing Healing, Promoting Hope, which according to the National Women's History Alliance is both a tribute to the ceaseless work of caregivers and frontline workers during the ongoing pandemic, and also a recognition of the thousands of ways that women of all cultures have provided both healing and hope throughout our history. And now it is my pleasure to be sitting here with three amazing women that do just that, provide healing and promote hope. I'll start with Jackie Primo. She's a wellness practitioner with 16 years of experience helping individuals take responsibility for their health throughout education, coaching, and effective therapies. Over her career, she has provided body work as targeted treatment for detoxification, weight loss, pain management, and stress reduction. She has provided relief for clients with a variety of conditions addressing the mind, body, and spirit. Jackie is a certified health coach through integrative nutrition, a pelvic steam facilitator, cryotherapist, and a practitioner of Zytoscan diagnostic technology. She has a BS in Business Administration and Marketing from Ball State University. She sits on the Ambassador Committee of the Crossroads Regional Chamber of Commerce and the board of the Indiana Ballet Theater, where she serves as president. She is a member of Engaging Northwest Indiana Women, which is where I met Jackie, and Women in Leadership of LaPorte County. Thanks for joining us, Jackie. Kerry Knowles, a next familiar face around campus, is a mental health therapist with Crown Counseling Services. She's a writer, an international life coach instructor with JRNI, an LA-based organization, and an adjunct professor at Calumet College of St. Joseph. She believes in meeting people where they are, with a client-centered, holistic approach to wellness. Kerry is trauma-informed, rooted in positive psychology, a specialist in depression, anxiety, trauma, emotional mastery, and the art of joyful living. She believes humans have the power within to write and rewrite their own story. Through exploring, experimenting, and embracing new ways of navigating life's journey, she helps her clients alleviate anguish, learn to love life completely, and flourish in a way that is uniquely theirs. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
A well-respected program leader, educator, and social advocate, Elizabeth Guzman Arredondo has spent the past 30 years engaged in efforts to support social work. Whether in leading education or coordinating linkage of care for demographics, she continues to show her exceptional insight and capacity to lead key strategic initiatives. The commitment has led to designation as a court-appointed special advocate for abused and neglected children, fostering success coach to mentor newly transitioning children from foster care, and involvement in numerous organizations and task forces that drive public policy. Currently, Elizabeth is the Associate Professor and Program Director for the Human Services Department at CCSJ. Here she acts as both thought leader and instructor to mentor the next generation of human services professionals. Throughout her courses, Ms. Guzman Arredondo takes care to provide key insights into the practical application of theory in understanding how to best support specialized, underserved, and at-risk individuals. Thank you all for being here. This is very exciting for me in Women's History Month to have the four of us up on stage to have a conversation about healing, and hope. So this is a conversation. I'm going to start with a few questions and we'll see where it takes us. But for our audience, I'm confident that you will hopefully learn a few things and be inspired by these amazing women. So our event is focused on women, health, healing, and hope. And I know that each of you work with a lot of females that are going through some very challenging times. When you think about health and wellness for women, what are the few important words of advice you might share with our audience? Jackie?
Thank you. I think that one of the most important things that you can do is put yourself first when it comes to your wellness. Take time out for yourself. That's very important. And the other thing that I think is very important to our health and wellness is what we do with our bodies. So what we eat is extremely important to our mental and physical health.
Great advice. Kerry?
I absolutely agree with Jackie. And in addition to that, I think it's learning to treat ourselves and be with ourselves as we would a friend. The longest relationship we're going to have with anyone is the one we have with ourselves. And being gentle with ourselves as we navigate trying times, right? We have never done this day before. And so being gentle as we navigate new ways of being and really truly being a friend to ourselves.
I have never thought of
great.
it that way, that we will be our longest friend. So be a good friend to yourself. That's great advice.
Wonderful.
Liz?
That is a neat way to look at
Yeah.
it. I think honestly is to not only be a friend to yourself, but when we need that assistance, when we're feeling overwhelmed, to have that humility about us and say, I can't do this and I need some help. And be okay with that. I think as women, we are so geared towards doing many things and wearing many hats. And just to say, I'm not able to do this today. And taking care of myself and doing what I need to do to care for myself. I think those are important pieces.
Yeah. Learning to say no and to say it's me time right
Yes.
now. I need to check out for a little while and be with myself. You know, in my experience in higher education, and certainly I go to a lot of workshops and hear a lot of data on college-age students, and I'm a mother of 2 daughters and an aunt to several nieces. And I certainly, we talk a lot about the increase in anxiety and depression among women and females and teenagers and youth. And you know, I often wonder, do you think it's environmental, or is it, to your point, Liz, thankfully, I think people are a lot more open to sharing now, which I think is a good thing. Just even my own relationships with either students or my daughters, the willingness to share, I think is a really positive thing. And I always wonder, is it a combination of both, or are there environmental factors that are making people just much more anxious and the highs and lows or depression? Maybe Kerry, mental health, I'm sure you deal with it daily.
Absolutely. And if we look at where our generation is now, you know, our college generation, they've not known a life really without social media. Social media really started booming in the last 10 to 13 years. And what we start seeing is this environment of compare and despair. We see so many people that it looks on the outside that they have it together. And then we start feeling about ourselves like, well, look at what they're projecting. I don't have that. And it causes a desperation and a disparity within ourselves that how am I doing all of these things? And I don't compare to what these other individuals have. But we're only seeing a picture. We're only seeing one perception and what people want us to see. Right? And so I think that's a big piece of what we need to look at is that the environment of social media and what that has played. But it's also played a good part as well because it has broken down some barriers. Absolutely. And it has allowed people to put out there that it's okay to not be okay.
Right.
And it's okay for me to step into some of these things. So we need to be really mindful of how we utilize these things and where we're getting our information from. But I really think that's a big part of what drives our anxiety is this notion of compare and despair.
I know my youngest daughter actually did away with social media last summer, and it's almost been a year, and she thinks she doesn't feel as connected, but she said it was the best thing that she could have done for her own mental health. So the social media for sure is an environmental factor that contributes a lot. Other anything you would add?
Absolutely. As a health coach, food is, you are what you put into your body. And, we as Americans have been led to believe that things are good for us that are absolutely not, right? And so through genetically modified foods, the addition of sugars and salts and who knows what else, chemicals, that absolutely plays an effect on your well-being mentally, emotionally, and physically. And people are need to be aware of what they're putting in their body, packaged goods and all that. I am a firm advocate of cooking at home and eating fresh food because it makes all the difference.
Actually, my doctor, every time I go there, she says, try cooking at home more because, when you're on the go, even though I feel like I'm eating healthy and I might get a salad, how is it washed, the dressing that you're putting on it. And then I do, I'm not as good as I'd like to be, but sugar, I think, is so addictive. And so when I have sugar, I can tell that my body is just doing a reject. Like, okay, too much. So as we approach Easter, that's probably some good words of advice of what you put into your body, processed sugar, etc. Anything you would add, Liz, that you think environmental or just willing to share in social work?
I would definitely agree with the whole social media piece. It's very good at times, but many times not so much. So I think definitely what we eat, environmental pieces in that regard, and how we internalize what we see in social media and how that affects, and especially I think about the youngsters, the teens that I'm working with, and how they view themselves and how they think others view themselves. And it can be very dangerous at times. Absolutely. And definitely have that negative effect. I think overall with mental health, we've come a long way, whereas in the past, it was something that wasn't talked about. It was hush-hush. Yep. And now we are, as a society, getting more comfortable with talking about feeling anxious, feeling depressed, not feeling right. And I really applaud that. It's so, so important that we're able to put words, effort. We're recognizing that people can't do it alone. So I think in that regard, social media has helped. The internet has helped to provide information, although, like we're saying here, be careful about where you're getting the information. But at the same time, I think it allows for us to come together as a community to recognize that there are issues and how are we going to address that?
No, you just made me think of just the mental health and Kerry and your role here at the college and offering counseling services. I do think college students probably have exposure that maybe other students don't because colleges are really making this a priority. And I even know for Calumet College, something new that we did that I don't think is done at most colleges, we extended the counseling services through the summer because you don't all of a sudden feel a lot better in the summer, and then you're 3 or 4 months without the therapist that you've learned to trust and feel comfortable with. So I think that we did that during the pandemic, thinking, the students need counseling services more than ever, and so we extended it through the summer. But I'm certainly prepared to keeping that going, and assuming it's a need. I know it was used during the pandemic, so I think college students, they have those resources at college that help them continue. I again thinking of the friends and my own family that now see a therapist as one of their doctors that they should see periodically. And so that is a good thing. So I do see some change over time for sure. So Jackie, you talked a little bit about physical and mental wellness, and through yoga, massage therapy, the retreats that you do. You talked about the importance of self-care, the importance of physical and mental health. How do you talk to your clients about carving out that time? Because we say it, and how do we stick to it?
Absolutely.
Even myself, right. I know I'm guilty.
It's hard, right? You've got to find a routine. We provide a number of ways to help our clients make wellness a lifestyle, right? So one of those ways is by providing memberships. You know what I mean? Holding your foot to the fire to do something for yourself on a monthly basis. Another way that I see people taking advantage of the services that we offer is our monthly spa party. We have a spa party that's opened up to the public on a monthly basis. You don't have to come with anyone. You can come by yourself. It's a great way to get some services, relax, but also communicate and fellowship and socialize with people, which is something that we have not been able to do, right? In a safe and welcoming environment. And so, not only go out and do things for yourself and get services that we provide or you can get anywhere, but to take time to do little things like fresh air, a walk, a bath, some good music, right? Those little things are so important, and you can find those moments in different places. So I encourage people to come to us to get things done, but I also encourage them to find those little nuggets, that quiet time at home before everybody gets up and starts moving around, where you have a time to collect yourself or just practice a little gratitude or be thankful in the moment, So those are the things that I encourage my clients to do.
I think that's another positive that came out of the pandemic, the number of people that finally found the great outdoors again. And I know I tried to buy a bike to replace my old one, and it took a year to get it. Everyone was buying bicycles, but I saw a lot more people out walking, and so that's a plus. Try to think of the pluses, but carving out that time, just if it's 15 minutes. And I know some people use it to walk the dog. That's their,
I love that.
Which I know for myself. My husband's now working from home, so I'm not needed as much to walk the dog, but I realized that was kind of my time in the morning to go out and walk the dog. So finding those intentional moments for yourself,
that's
self-care.
Good. Intentional moments.
Liz, you're the director of our Human Services program, and I know many of your students are women, not all of them, but I think about the great need for human service professionals in our region. So many people I talk to, they're in need, they have job openings. If you were to talk to our audience about the profession, human service professionals, what are some of the traits that make good professionals in your field? Or those might be interested in coming and having you for a professor and learning about human services?
I look at myself as a catalyst in a sense, as a stepping stone in a sense for students that already have that. It's innate. It's who they are, that willingness or that desire to help others. One of my very first classes, I asked them, raise a hand, show me who's out there to tell me that you are the person that your friends go to or your family members go to when they need help or when they need somebody to listen. And surprisingly, they're all raising their hand, and then they're looking out at each other like, oh my gosh, you too, kind of a thing. So what we do is just tap into that sense of wanting to help others. And through our program here, look at ways and the skill that they need to get out there to be those helping professionals. So that empathy, that care, that willingness to listen. And there's a growth, there's a market for people that want to help others. And definitely much needed. And in every population, with little infants to toddlers to adults to older adults. So run the gamut of the human development stage that someone's in. There's a need for assistance. There's a need for help. So,
I think about a personal experience with my great-grandmother, and I haven't done this, but it was always something that I thought I would do. She had lost her eyesight, and she used to always love to read the Reader's Digest. And when I'd go visit, I would always read to her. And I always thought, that I've had a history of making up businesses, but I always thought that would be a great social service to have people that were willing to go in and read, whether it's the newspaper. You think of elderly, their eyes, they can't read the newspaper anymore. Just to go in and read the newspaper or a book, and maybe that's out there. But I always thought that would be a really great thing to do and a service to provide for the elderly.
Absolutely. That is one of our internships, Little Brothers.
Okay.
And
tell us about that.
That is, so part of our program is to place students in internships with populations they're very interested in working with. So Little Brothers of the Poor here now is in Northwest Indiana, usually was in Chicago. I've had already 2 students and another one interested in helping the elderly, and they will do things like that.
Oh.
Take them meals, help them celebrate their birthdays, read to them. And these are elderly folks in our community that don't have anyone, that are alone, that are by themselves. So our students are interns, and they will help with the agency and go in.
Oh, well, so there's an agency already out there, and it's called Little Brothers of Northwest Indiana.
Little Brothers of the Poor, Northwest Indiana chapter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great to know. I know we've been a long-standing provider of Meals on Wheels, and I always think that that's also just another great resource that we provide to the community as well. So, when we all think about our busy lives, and I know that I certainly have moments where I feel completely overwhelmed, and you have to take that moment to stop. And what I find is the greatest effect on me is my ability to sleep when I feel overwhelmed. And yet, I know how important, if you look at some of the wellness, they talk about the incredible importance of sleep.
Absolutely.
And being able to get a good night's sleep. And so the 2 things that when I'm feeling overwhelmed that I often see go first is sleep, and then my ability to sleep. Even if I'm trying to get 8 hours, I can't always turn it off. And exercise. I mean, those are the 2 things that go first, and yet they're the 2 things that are, I would say, a little foundational to our physical and mental health. Absolutely. Any tricks of the trade that you use or advice?
So I work a lot with individuals with sleep and creating good sleep hygiene. And it's about creating routines for yourself, right? If we're not getting adequate sleep, our brain can't process information. It's when we're sleeping that we take all of the information in the day and we learn it and we emotionally regulate. So if we're lacking in sleep, we can't efficiently emotionally regulate, and we can't efficiently process information and learn and take in new information. So sleep is vital to where we are. So creating a good sleep routine, right? How do you get your body ready for rest? What does your environment look like? What is your bedroom like, right? I encourage people first, get rid of electronics in your bedroom. It takes about an hour once you shut off your phone, your TV, or anything else for your brain to relax from that blue light and actually get ready into sleep mode. So doing something like reading an actual book with pages is great. Making sure we're hydrated as well, right? If our brain is worried about sleep, if it's worried about hydration, if it's worried about nutrition, it's not going to be able to emotionally regulate. So creating that sleep routine, every single night, I have a cup of tea. It's getting my body ready. And it says, okay, we're having tea. Well, let's start relaxing. Let's get into sleep mode. Is this easy when anxiety is through the roof? No. But it's that reminder of I've created a habit at this point. So it's the tea, go up, wash my face, brush my teeth, get into bed, and it's a calming environment. My body knows I don't go into my bed unless it's sleep.
So electronics, TV, your phone. I mean, I know so many people that sleep with the phone right next to them, or Netflix, or videos that they fall asleep to. I will say I'm guilty of falling asleep to the Great British Baking Show because I find their voices, and I've seen them all. So I think for me, I don't actually watch them because I've seen them before, but it's something that provides calmness to me. But that's probably not allowed. So this is good advice for me as well. But the water, I didn't think about the water. So drinking a big glass of water before you go to bed.
Well, being mindful how soon before, because we also don't want to wake up because our bladder's screaming at us.
Okay.
But for sure, we're going into an 8-hour deficit of food and water, right? So when people talk about intermittent fasting, you're fasting for those 8 hours. And if your brain is worried about this and it's looking for the food, the water, it's going to have a tough time.
I've been doing a little bit of the Habits of Health, Dr. A's Habits of Health, and the hydration is one of the things. It's hard for me to drink 64 ounces, but he believes 64 ounces of water you should be drinking every single day. So I'm trying to be better at that. And then sleep. I haven't gotten to that stage yet, but small steps.
Absolutely.
Go through small steps. So I think that's good words of advice for sure. No, I was thinking of I watched on PBS last night a special on Angela Merkel, and thinking about her as the first female chancellor of Germany and the time that she experienced with the European Union and Brexit. And there were a couple clips of her going head-to-head, toe-to-toe with Putin. And yet she was, incredibly intelligent and didn't seem to show her emotion too much. And I thought, okay, when I think of myself as being overworked and challenged in big jobs, I tend to try to put it in perspective and think, okay, my life is nothing like hers. Think of her life. And she was an amazing leader. And I don't know whether that's good or not to try to put it in perspective. So I always use perspective when I feel like I have challenges or difficulties. I also think right now, in Ukraine and the women and the children in Ukraine and the suffering. And so I'm always thinking, is the use of putting it in perspective a valuable tool, or would you caution against that? So I'm admitting what I do myself, and sometimes I do for my children. I try to evaluate it first, but I don't know that that's a positive tool.
Perspective is great, right? Mm-hmm. And something I heard a lot throughout the entire pandemic was, well, we're all in the same boat. Well, we're not in the same boat.
Right.
Some people were in a yacht, some people were in a dinghy, some people didn't even have a boat.
Yes.
We were weathering the same storm, right? When we need to be cautious that we're not creating toxic positivity so that we are negating our own emotions, right? My emotions don't matter because they have it worse, right? So if your leg was broken and my toe was broken, it doesn't make my toe not hurt just because it's a smaller part of my body, right? Yeah. There's still pain and anguish there. So I can be empathetic towards somebody else's emotion, but I also need to be mindful of my own too. So I think that perspective taking is amazing, but we don't want to lose sight of our own emotion in that perspective taking.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. So putting it in perspective, but being very in tune to your own self-care and emotion and those around you, for sure.
Absolutely.
So, and the importance of that. I just have sort of one opportunity that I also want to share. There's a lot of apps now, so things that we shouldn't be looking at before we go to sleep, but I know is a Calm, or there are a lot of apps and resources that are out there, and I'm just wondering if there are any that you would want to share with our audience or listeners that you think would be helpful. That you use personally, or
Well, I love YouTube for playing relaxing spa music, meditative music. When you're finding those small times throughout the day, those quiet times, having calming music that could be a part of your nighttime routine as you start to settle yourself down. So I love music as a therapy in and of itself, whether that's going to take you, and it can take you different ways. It can get you up, it can take you down, it can settle you down. I love music as a therapy to get things started. That's just one of many things you can do.
okay, so music, any?
Absolutely, I'll agree with music too, and the YouTube. I've been using a lot of binaural music and what's called
Frequency.
8D music, like frequency music, and it's been really beneficial with a lot of my clients that have high levels of anxiety. It's an immersive experience.
Can you pronounce it again, just so I?
Binaural. So
Binaural.
bi is two, so it's
Okay.
going back and forth, so it creates a wave within our brain. So it's kind of like a mental floss, right? And it creates a relaxation. And then the 8D comes in from all different directions, so it's almost like a brain massage.
Okay.
Really interesting. And then always encourage people. I have positive motivational quotes that pop up, and it's random, and it keeps generating, because if it's the same thing that we see day in and day out, we stop reading it. So it changes, and I love that because I get a new message.
Yep.
So giving ourselves messages, we have to feed ourselves what we want to believe.
I think recently I've been trying breathing techniques before I go to sleep, and I know there are some apps for that. Someone just told me a trick to, I think it's 478, but so I've been using that technique, and I also so I think that the breathing is very, very helpful for me, certainly. So whether it's an app or not, that's another good suggestion. So any questions that might ask our? Here, I'll take them. Thank you very much. Okay. I admire you all because you all are successful women with careers. When it comes to taking the next in life transitioning from college into adult life, what is some advice you can give when it comes to mental health, stress, and unexpected factors of life that'll come up? So that's a big one. There's a lot in there. I mentioned what I didn't mention. I also do a daily. I don't do it daily, but I have a daily devotions or intentions. And when you were talking about positive, just one sentence or two sentences. Sometimes I read those and I forward to other people that it makes me think of. I'm a big proponent of. And I think of some of your comments about positivity, and I hope it's not toxic, but I try to be positive. But sometimes when I feel that it's a down day or a lot of stress, for me, I always feel like I can always make somebody else's day better. And in turn, that usually makes my day better. I'm a true believer in that you get much more than you give, and so that's one of my techniques when I feel overwhelmed or stressed or not enough hours in the day. I can take 10 minutes and send a quick email or if I'm thinking of someone, just pause for a minute and just let them know I'm thinking of you. I hope you're having a good day. Or if I see a student in the hallway, that just checking in on them. So that's something that I do for myself. But again, it's about trying to do something for others. So
I like being, when time gets hectic, trying to be in the moment and practice gratitude because, it could always be worse, right? It could always be worse. So being in the moment, and I'm also a big proponent of going back to nature. Fresh air. We are so fortunate to live in Northwest Indiana and be right around the corner from the beach, right? And we don't utilize it to its fullest because grounding yourself, becoming one with nature, being barefoot, fresh air, cool breezes, and in visualizing, we do a lot of visualization with the clients, taking your cares and your problems out with the wind. Let them go out to sea, and really visualizing and manifesting those things and being in the moment and taking advantage of what God has given us, which is, the ability to go outside and enjoy fresh air.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I often say, I feel the grace of God
Yes.
when I'm out in nature, for sure.
Yep.
And but for Calumet College, for any viewers that are not students or not familiar with Calumet College, we are right next to the beach,
That's
and we're
right.
very close to the Indiana Dunes
Yep.
National Park.
Yep.
And so there are great outdoor resources,
Yes.
and our trail system through Hammond and Whiting, and so we are very blessed with the wildlife pier and
Yeah.
trail systems and the beach nearby and state and national parks. So thanks for prompting me to promo our natural resources.
That's right.
Here. So how about others? What any
Yeah,
Anything
I'm
you'd
gonna.
like to add?
Gratitude is huge in my practice. Before I get out of bed, I do my best every day to name 3 things that I'm grateful for. Simple, right? The whiskers of my cat on my face. The fact that it's nice enough out to have the windows open so I get to hear the birds in the morning. The fact that I have warm blankets, right? What 3 things I'm grateful for. And it sets an intention for our day, right? And to that question, like, how are we bridging that gap and taking that? I really encourage people to, we're so hurried all the time.
Yeah.
Still. Take time to be still. Listen to what your body is telling you, because your body will always tell you. We just have a habit that we're going so fast, we ignore it, right? Our check engine light comes on, and we just keep going until all of a sudden there's a whole lot more than the check engine light on.
Yep.
So be still. Listen to yourself, because the answers are within if we truly listen.
anything you'd like to add, Liz?
Just definitely music, be still, daily reflections, and definitely with a student. So successful women up here, but it's been a road. We've had our ups and downs.
Absolutely.
And we've had to lean into others that have gone before us, definitely leaning into my faith constantly, all the time. And knowing that, you're one of our students, you're always going to be one of our students. You could always come back to us and ask and call on us. And if there's any direction that you might need for a career, a certain issue you might be having, we're here. And I want our students to understand that you're going to get out there, you're going to take that step, but you're not alone. You're not alone. So definitely leaning into your faith.
Yeah, and I think of some comments we had about social media, where you see kind of just one side, and certainly I think there's probably all been times in our lives while we sit up here and are successful career women. There have been some really difficult times on the journey, and so how we've made it through, it's providing hope to ourselves as well, and healing and self-care. And so thank you for that question. There's a stigma around strong women that they're supposed to take on burdens. What advice can you give to young women about getting help or simply acknowledging being overwhelmed?
I think it's very important to set boundaries, right? Just like on the airplane, you're supposed to put the mask on yourself before you put it on someone else. We only have so much energy to work with, and we have to reserve some of that for ourselves, right? And so you really need to set boundaries, protect your surroundings and who you spend your time around, and be very aware of your senses, because a lot of times right away when something's not right, and you may ignore the warning sign. But if you can be still and be in the moment and listen to your first mind, right, that first thought, and you'll protect yourself a lot better. We put ourselves, what I find and what I've learned over time, if most of the situations that I found myself in that were unfavorable, if I look back, there was something,
Warning.
that I ignored because I was in the moment for the wrong reasons, more than likely, right? Don't ignore those signs. Listen to yourself, right? Listen to your body, listen to your instinct, because it'll never lead you the wrong way. Your body will tell you the truth, the mind will tell you whatever you want to hear, right? So make sure you follow your body. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's important to recognize too that just because you're strong enough to carry the weight doesn't mean you have to carry it alone, right? And coming back to what we were talking about here is that if we can lean into more collaboration and less competition, there's room for everyone.
Yep.
And I think women especially need to recognize that. If we start collaborating, we're going to fire off into the universe.
Yes.
Right? We are so much better together. And as human beings, we're communal creatures. And so this collaboration, it can be a driving force that you don't have to carry the weight all by yourself.
Absolutely.
You're still a really strong woman.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to lean on other people and redirect. Know what your resources are, because you don't have all the answers, but you may know somebody else that does. And it's okay if you don't. And it's really good to learn how to gently redirect people, and you're still doing them a service because you're pointing them in the right direction, but you're not exhausting yourself by trying to be something for someone else, that you're not or that you can't be at the time.
Yeah, and it's so important to ask for help, because if we don't, the answer will always be no. Always be no. But if we ask, we don't know what doors we're going to open for ourselves. So ask. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Just giving ourselves that permission to be vulnerable, to ask, to know that I can't do it alone. And that's what we need, that collaboration. I love that.
Yeah.
And I think of your work in social work. Oftentimes you are the strength for many people, and so that they come to you or they rely on you. And so understanding how do you maintain that strength in your work practice, but then allow time for yourself.
And understanding our limitations. That's really important, and where our strengths are. And if that's not my strength, I know somebody that might be able to help, So understanding that about ourselves, having that introspection about ourselves, those are important.
I might just pull it together as I think of the comments that each of you made. I have female friends that I try every year. I have 2 sets, my college roommates that I try to get together every year. And sometimes it can only be 24 hours because we're all busy and in different states. But we try to do that because we laugh so hard. And I have 24 hours where I come back having laughed at least 2 or 3 times where I'm crying because it's so funny. And that I need, because I don't do that enough. And then I have 5 women that are a few college presidents and certainly leaders in their field. And to get together in that environment as friends and colleagues to support each other, because we all have similar experiences that we can share. And then the other thing that I find just a trick when I feel like I'm strong and I need to be strong and I have a lot on my plate, I do listen to my body, and I can tell when I'm at that tipping point. I go to my calendar, I find an open day and cross out a vacation day. And so I know that I'm at that tipping point because I go to the calendar and like, okay, I need to find a day where I can check out for a day. And then I go spend it with family or my granddaughter or something that brings me great joy. That I know to go to my calendar, and if I can rearrange things, it's my gift to myself to carve out a day for myself. So I want to thank all of you. I hope that our audience and viewers found this informative. I took away a few great tricks, so thank you for sharing with us today. And I want to do a little promo for another event that we have before we close out today. On Friday, we are hosting the Governor's Public Health Commission's listening tour. So on Friday, March 25th, CCSJ is the proud host of one of the sessions of the Governor's Public Health Commission's listening tour, which is to gather input about Indiana's public health system. Members of the Health Commission will be here in room 200 from 11 to 1. And all are invited. And certainly this is the state of Indiana. The governor is looking for input. We have health issues and concerns that we're all concerned about. And this is a way to get input and provide feedback so that we can make improvements in our state. So please, if that interests you, come and hear what the task force has to say, but provide your input so that it can get back to the governor of our state. And with that, I want to just again thank you for joining me. Women's History Month, as the first female president of Calumet College of St. Joseph, it is my honor to host this and to bring together amazing, talented women every year. So this is my second of many, but thanks for joining me in 2022.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.